On August 28, 1955, Emmett Till was murdered. He was beaten so bad that his own mother could not recognize her son. But she said, at the funeral, we're going to leave that casket open so the world will see what they did to my boy. And when the world did see, many people fainted on passing that casket. On August 28, 1963, a Southern preacher named Martin Luther King stood up and he told the world about his dream that one day things would be a little different. And on August 28, 2008, a black man by the name of Barack Hussein Obama accepted the nomination of a major political party for president, and he went on to win that election. But the question is, how do we get from Emmett Till to Barack Obama? And I'll tell you, it was not just about political campaigns. It wasn't about who knocked on whose door, who got on the bus first, I was there before you. No, it wasn't about that. It was bigger. Because it wasn't just a movement of black people, but of all people. So if you ever defy the stereotype, you were part of that. If you ever gave back to someone in need in any way, you were part of that. If you ever dreamed that what they told you could not be done, could be done, you were part of that movement. So I'd like to begin tonight by thanking each and every one of you. Because together we've had one incredible year. It's been an incredible year for the country. It's been an incredible year for the world. And we were a part of it. You know, last summer, I interned with Senator Obama down in his Washington office. And the thing that we heard every day was that change starts at the bottom and trickles its way up. And this year, I'm glad to say that we were a part of that change. Back in September, we gathered to watch the presidential debates. We drew in hundreds of students who were not black. And with the help of Kim Foster and her voter registration table, we registered students to vote. But we knew that it was not enough to register to vote. You need to register and vote. We got after the ballots. And with the help of HO, we made sure they were mailed where they needed to go by the time they needed to get there. So on election night, when one of the last barriers to the dream was broken, we were there together, no matter where you were. We were there together to laugh together, to dance together, cry together. But the BSA will not stop there. We were there to watch the inauguration. We followed both of Barack Obama's swearing in. And I want to say on a more serious note that we're going to continue to work with Clayton's HPAC, a new political action committee right here, to pursue progressive ideas locally. But that's not all. The BSA will work every day to make sure that when Harvard hands out its Washington internships, that the recipients reflect the diversity of this college, that they reflect the diversity of this country, that they reflect the diversity of this White House. And I have another thing to say on that. Because today we got our first verbal confirmation from the Institute of Politics that the BSA will get a special dinner with David Pluck when he comes in. And you may know him as the manager to the Obama for America campaign. So the BSA will remain strong politically. You know, these last few months have brought us closer together than we've ever been before. We're more united now than we were 90 days ago. And we now share in one commonality which can never be taken away. Because 20 years from now, when someone asks, where were you when America elected its first African-American president, you won't have to say that you were studying for your F 10 midterm. You won't have to say that you were bogged down on the line. You won't have to say that you stood on the sideline as a spectator to history. Because this time we were history. This time we made history. This time we changed history. But the idea of changing history, of fighting on the front lines in the war for social justice is not new. We've seen it in our very own. Jarrell, we've seen it in your work in Boston. Sybil, we've seen it in your work in Mattapan. Samora, we've seen it in your work inside and outside of Cambridge. Fighting on the front lines in the war for social justice is not new. We've seen it in history. Malcolm called it the battle for the bullet. Martin called it the fierce urgency of now. And Barack, well, he called it change. But the idea that we will strive not for what is, but strive for what is right, that is the idea that we live by. That is the idea that we live for. You know, I've heard it said that Rosa Parks sat so Martin Luther King could stand. And I've heard it said that Martin Luther King stood so Barack Obama could have won. And we need to say today, together, that Barack Obama ran so that we could fly, and fly hard, and fly true, that we may bring a people marred by racism, shackled by the weight of oppression, into an era where they are judged by the content of their character. I speak of an era where a black child would hear that Tupac song which proclaimed that we weren't ready for a black president. And that black child will say, we are ready for a black president, we are already elected. On election night, we definitely were tuning in CNN. And CNN had cameras all over the world, but one of the cameras was tuned into Harlem. And there was a black man with his 2 children, and he looked at them, and they looked at him, said 2 words, no excuses. No excuses, and that's what it's about. Because we've got a choice coming up. We can play the system and do real well, or we can change the system and do some real good. And one way is a little bit easier, and one way gives you a little more choice, but the other way is divine. And I say divine because when you give your last breath, you will know that it is not an end, but a beginning. Because in your life, you will spend your days helping those who will live on, making the world a little bit fairer, just a little bit safer, just a little bit better. Guys, we're on a path right now. We're on a path. But that path did not need to be there. And that path does not need to be there tomorrow. See, it was paved in the toil of the protest. It was paved in the blood of the martyr. It was paved in the hope of the dream. And we need to take up that mantle and stand for something just like Barack did. Because we need to make sure that the path that got us here today is there tomorrow for those who follow.